What's up, YouTube? Welcome to my channel. That's So JoJo, and I'm JoJo. Thank you for watching. This is my coming out story, and I feel like we talk about this entirely too much, but here it goes. I came out 3 different times, and I feel like even today, like there's so much stuff going on in the world that it kind of, to me, it's kind of surprising that we still have to talk about this, and like people still have to make this like grand gesture of coming out, as if it's like still this thing that's so uncommon and I guess deemed as not normal. I mean, I grew up, obviously black family, not the best neighborhood. I played sports. I started playing baseball when I was 4 years old. I played all the way through high school. Played 1 year in college. We'll get to that. But I did have to come out 3 different times, and that was so frustrating for me. And I didn't really know anything about like being gay. Like, what is that? What did that even mean? I was 4 or 5 years old, and kids are cruel and can be like little assholes sometimes. And they would like call me names and like the stereotypical insults of like, oh, he's a sissy, and things like that. And I had this nickname of the kissy boy when I was in kindergarten. I would like be very affectionate with men and women, and people thought it was weird. And as I got older, like I didn't really know like what that meant, but I was just kind of being myself. And then as I was like 9 or 10 years old, I started to realize, I'm like, oh, like you're attracted to men. Okay. We'll figure that out. And I kept it to myself. Didn't really talk to anybody about it. No teachers or anything like that. No family, no friends. I mean, I had a girlfriend in middle school. I had a couple. And then when I got to high school, I had a different girlfriend every year. Continued to play sports, and I would still get the same insults, even from like teammates, like, oh, he's a faggot, or he's gay, or things like that. And it wasn't even, I think it maybe was like the way that I presented myself. It was like, oh, the stereotype, right? Like, oh, gay people act a certain way, and so we see him behaving this way, so he must be gay. Yeah, and I didn't say anything about it. Kind of just let it roll off my back the whole time, even though those were my teammates. That we were cool on the field, and then after that, like, we would go back to school, and then there would be like the name calling and things like that, and I wasn't really concerned about that. I kind of kept to myself and didn't really hang out with them outside of being on the team, so it didn't really matter to me. I've always been a really independent person, and I think that was why I was able to kind of separate myself from a lot of the BS that came with it. And yeah, I mean, I made it through high school, won a state championship for baseball, and haven't spoken to any of those people since. And like, high school is like one of those things, you grow up and sometimes you keep like a handful of friends, and other times you don't really talk to much of anybody from that period in your life on a regular basis. But when I was 18, I was kind of dating this guy, and I can't even remember how I met him. I think it was like this website called Downlink or something. I don't know if anybody remembers that. If you do, put it in the comments. But like, there was this website called Downlink, and it was like very before all the grinders and the scruffs and things like that. I feel like, I don't know, now I feel kind of old. And so yeah, I met this guy. He lived in San Francisco, and I would drive there to go like hang out with him and stuff. And so we were dating. Thinking back on it, it's like, dude, you shouldn't even been dating this guy in the first place. I don't even know why you did that. But we would hang out, and I had a picture on my phone, nothing X-rated. It was more like, I think it was a picture of us kissing, or maybe like cuddling or something like that. And I was already making my escape plan. I was like, okay, like, you have to stack enough money to be able to like support yourself, because if it gets to a point where you come out and you get kicked out of the house, or you know they don't want to support you in like whatever way, because I'm still living with my parents, you need to have an escape plan. Like, what is your plan? And so I had 2 phones. I was on one of them and I left the other one sitting on the counter, and my sister got the phone and ran to the bathroom and locked herself in the bathroom. And I just panicked. I was like, oh no, like she's gonna go in my text messages and she's gonna go in my photos and she's gonna figure out like what's going on. And so I panicked and I immediately ran out of the house. Left the phone, grabbed the backup phone, ran out of the house, and called my cousin who lived maybe 20 or 30 minutes away from us, and told her like, hey, I really need to talk to you. You know, can I come over? And she says yes. So I get in the car and like drive to my cousin's house. And so my cousin happens to be a lesbian, and she already knew what I was going to tell her. She was just like kind of waiting for me to tell her in my own time. And I ended up telling her what happened and telling her like where I'm at in my life, and she kind of, you know, sat and listened and gave me advice. And she was telling me like, you know, why don't you trust your sister and things like that. And now that I'm older, like I think about, you know, why I panicked so hard, and it was mainly me that was like concerned and scared. I totally could have trusted my sister. Like I could have trusted her. But because I was so engulfed in fear of like, oh, what is she gonna say and what is she gonna think, and like the taboo that was wrapped in it that I was raised in, that prevented me from being able to trust her. And that, in addition to the fact that I went to Catholic school for 9 years, and like that was a whole thing. Not to say that there wasn't gay kids that went to that school, because there were plenty, but obviously like frowned upon, right? Catholic school anyway. So I go back home and I get in the house, and my sister's like, is there anything that you want to tell me? And I was like, is there anything I want to tell you? No, there's nothing that I want to tell you. So I went in my room, locked the door, and we never talked about it. She left my phone sitting on my bed, and we never discussed it. I think maybe for like another 2 years or so. But I knew at that point, I'm like, okay, if this is freaking you out so much, then you need to tell your parents, because if you don't, then at some point it'll come out, and it's better for them to be able to hear it from you. So I ended up deciding, I'm like, okay, let me tell my dad. And so I was like, hey, like, Dad, like, let's go to breakfast. Like, and he's like, breakfast? Like, why do you want to take me to breakfast? Like, I was totally the wrong thing for me to tell him, because he was immediately suspicious. He was like, okay, like, he needs to talk to me about something. Like, what the hell's going on? And so we ended up going to his favorite spot, not too far from our home. And we were walking, like, together in a straight line, and towards the door to the restaurant, and he's like, what do you need to talk to me about? Like, this is not like you. I was like, what do you mean? He was like, what, did you get somebody pregnant? And I was like, no. You don't want to go to college? And I'm like, yeah, that's true, but no, that's not the reason why I want to talk to you. He's like, oh, so you're gay? And I just froze. It's like, yeah. And he's like, what? We didn't even make it in the restaurant. We were walking in a straight line, and when I said that I was gay, like, I answered him with a yes, and he just like kind of tailed off to the side, and I was still walking straight. And I'm like, this man is so terrified right now. He does not know what to say or what to do. And we ended up making it into the restaurant and sat down and had a conversation. But he was trying to tell me like, oh, maybe you're bisexual, you've had girlfriends. And I tried to explain to him, I'm like, you know what? Like, I've had girlfriends, and like that's kind of how I know that like I'm not straight, and I know that I'm not bi. And you know, beautiful, amazing women, but not for me. Like, not to date, not romantically interested. Yeah. So then he was trying to explain away the gay, and wasn't really working with me. I kind of stood my ground with him. Public place, so he, no making of the scene or anything like that. But he was more concerned about me like not continuing to play baseball. That was his thing. And I did continue to play, but after a while I was just like, I don't feel like hiding this anymore. And so I was able to graduate high school. That all went fine. And then when I was in college, it was my very first year, and the head coach of the college team happened to be a pastor. And he found out that I was dating this guy, and he benched me and did not play me because he knew that I was gay. And it wasn't because I wasn't good enough, because I was a really good baseball player, but it was because he didn't want me on the team. And so I was like, well, I could be in class right now. I don't even like school as it is, and I'm like, I'm not gonna sit on anybody's bench like out of you being disrespectful like towards me because you don't agree with my lifestyle choice, right? Choice. His words, not mine. And I ended up quitting. My dad got pissed, cursed out the coach. Thanks, Dad. And yeah, and then I went into the Army because things got really weird after I stopped playing baseball. It was like, oh, like you can't do this, you can't do that because you're gay. Like my homosexuality was a blocker for so many things per someone else's opinion. You can't do this because you're gay, you can't do that because you're gay. And then I went into the Army, and I'm like, I'm not even supposed to be in the Army and be gay because it was don't ask, don't tell. But that was part of my escape plan. I was like, okay, like I'll sign up and I'll do this thing, and then I'll just like suck it up and I'll do it. Do not join the military to escape anything. That's key advice right there. Don't join the military to escape anything or anybody. Look for alternate ways to be able to take care of yourself if you can. Unless that's what you want to do. If you want to go to the military, that's totally fine. But don't do it out of desperation. And yeah, so I had to go back in the closet for 2 years of don't ask, don't tell. And then when it got repealed, I came out again to my coworkers when I was in the military, and it went totally fine. It was actually a whole lot better than it was then when I did it in right after high school and in college and stuff. So thanks to those people, because they were really great, and they respected my work and respected me as a person, and we still talk today, and I'm grateful for that. But what I would say is, just basically 2 pieces of advice. Don't let the fear keep you from having a support system. If there are people that you feel like you might be able to trust, I would think it through for sure. Because there are people who might support you that you are letting your fear convince you otherwise. And for sure, that one of those people that could have been my sister. Definitely could have trusted her and did not even give her the opportunity. I just completely assumed that she was going to freak out because I was panicking, so my bad there. And then the other thing is always have a backup plan, because if you are in a bad situation where if you do come out and someone could potentially hurt you, take advantage of you, put you in a negative spot, you need to be able to know what resources are available to you to be able to pull yourself out of that situation, whether it's having that support system of friends, family members or whatnot, or having a safety blanket of cash or whatever it is to be able to get your own apartment or have a car, things like that. So yeah, and it sucks to say, but there's so many LGBTQ resources out there, and I think becoming aware of them is a really good step. And doing your research. Again, please don't join the military if you're trying to escape something, because that is a really bad decision. Yeah, but that's kind of how I came out. Kid to baseball player to Army to now, and I would say things do definitely get better. I was able to buy a home on my own, had a good job, did not graduate from college, by the way. And my parents, regardless of sexuality and who I date and who I love, they just want me to be happy and they want me to be able to take care of myself, and I've been able to prove that I'm able to do that, and they respect me for it, and I couldn't ask for anything better than that. So yeah, but I guess that's pretty much it. It's not too much of a traumatic story. It's just a lot of back and forth and like dealing with shitty people who didn't understand me, and I don't know, I'm really stubborn, so when people just like treat me like that, I'm just like, okay, I'm out. And I just want to go do something else and always find something else to do that's better. So yeah. Yeah, but thanks for listening, and welcome to my channel, and hope to see you on another video. And yeah, see you on the next one. Bye.